Bodacious wrecked riders so bad one needed a new face. His brutal hit crushed bones and left a champion unrecognizable. These bulls were pure nightmares, throwing cowboys like toys and ending careers in seconds. Stick around as we break down the bulls that destroyed the most riders, the most wrecks ever, and the legends who somehow survived. Hit that like button, subscribe for more crazy stories, and let's get into the wildest rides in bull riding history. Tune in, because what this bull did next will make you question why anyone ever got on his back. Number 10. Bodacious. Bodacious was a battering ram with legs and a living, breathing demolition crew. His whole deal? Make sure anyone foolish enough to climb on his back regretted it within seconds. And if there was ever a moment that cemented his reputation, it was the 1995 PBR World Finals when he went head-to-head with Tough Hedeman. Now, Hedeman was no rookie. The guy had taken on the meanest bulls in the business and lived to tell the tale. But Bodacious didn't care. The second the chute opened, the bull did what he did best. Exploded out like a cannonball, twisted mid-air, and slingshotted Hedeman straight into his own skull. It wasn't just a fall, it was a full-blown facial reconstruction waiting to happen. The impact was so brutal, it shattered bones, turned his face into a grotesque mask of pain, and left him looking like he'd gone 10 rounds with a wrecking ball. After that, the decision was made. Bodacious was retired. Not because he was past his prime, but because he was just too dangerous. When even the toughest cowboys start thinking twice, you know you're dealing with something beyond the ordinary. Number 9. Bushwacker. Some bulls let a few riders get lucky. Bushwacker, he wasn't in the business of giving away wins. For 6 straight years, he sent cowboy after cowboy flying, racking up an absurd 42 consecutive buck-offs. That wasn't just a streak, it was a statement. He had the perfect combination of power, unpredictability, and agility, making him the ultimate nightmare for anyone trying to last the required 8 seconds. Time and time again, Bushwacker would launch out of the chute like a coiled spring, twisting, kicking, and doing whatever it took to ensure no one stood a chance. Most cowboys barely had time to blink before they were eating dirt. But then, in 2013, J.B. Mooney decided he'd had enough. Unlike the others, Mooney didn't just rely on instinct. He studied Bushwacker like a scientist analyzing a predator. And when the moment came, he executed his plan to perfection. For 8 grueling seconds, he held on for dear life, adjusting, countering, reading every unpredictable move. And when the buzzer finally sounded, he didn't just stay on. He dominated, earning an incredible 95 1/4 points. It was the kind of ride that gets talked about for decades, not just because of the score, but because it was against a bull that simply didn't lose. That night, Bushwacker wasn't defeated. He was merely momentarily conquered by a man who refused to be thrown. Number 8. Dillinger. If there was a bull who could make the best in the world look like complete amateurs, it was Dillinger. He was pure muscle, raw aggression, and just enough intelligence to know exactly how to ruin a cowboy's day. Riders would climb onto his back full of confidence, ready to prove themselves, and within seconds, they were airborne. No warning, no mercy, just gravity reminding them who was really in charge. It wasn't that Dillinger was unpredictable. In fact, it was the opposite. His moves were so explosive and perfectly timed that no one could react fast enough. The result, the best of the best, barely lasted 2 seconds before getting tossed like rag dolls. But then came Chris Shivers, a man known for having the kind of balance and control that could turn impossible rides into legendary moments. In 2001, he climbed onto Dillinger, knowing full well what was at stake. The bull did his usual, twisting, kicking, thrashing, but Shivers held on, riding through the storm with ridiculous precision. When the buzzer sounded, the score came in, 96 1/2 points, one of the highest marks in professional bull riding history. It wasn't just a victory, it was a message to every other cowboy that yes, Dillinger was beatable, just barely. Number 7. Little Yellow Jacket. This beast wasn't just a bull, he was a living, breathing eject button. 3-time world champion, and nearly every cowboy who climbed on got sent flying like they had a personal appointment with the dirt. It wasn't just about power. This bull had strategy. He knew how to twist, turn, and jerk at the perfect moment, making even the toughest riders look like rag dolls. If you managed to last more than a few seconds, you were already in the elite club. But then came Michael Gaffney in 2004. Nobody expected him to make it, and honestly, he probably didn't either. The second the gate flew open, Little Yellow Jacket was already launching into a whirlwind of kicks and spins, trying to get rid of this uninvited passenger. But Gaffney, he locked in like his life depended on it. Because, let's be real, it kinda did. Every turn, every violent buck, he adjusted, held firm, and kept his balance in a way that seemed almost supernatural. The crowd was losing their minds, and by the time the buzzer hit, Gaffney had secured 96.5 points, one of the highest scores in PBR history. That ride wasn't just impressive, it was a statement. Little Yellow Jacket may have been the king, but on that night, Gaffney took the crown. Number 6. Blueberry Wine. They called him Blueberry Wine, but let's be honest, there was nothing smooth about this ride. If bulls had personality, this one was the unpredictable wild card that played by no rules. 1 second, he'd be twisting midair like an acrobat. The next, he'd be bucking so violently that even gravity seemed confused. There was no pattern, no way to predict his next move, and that's what made him so terrifying. Countless riders tried and failed, left wondering if they'd just been part of some elaborate rodeo prank. But then, in 2001, Cody Hancock climbed aboard. From the moment the gate cracked open, it was absolute mayhem. Blueberry Wine wasted no time in throwing everything he had, spinning, twisting, flinging his back legs so high they nearly scraped the sky. Hancock was gripping so tight, his knuckles probably turned white, but he stayed locked in, refusing to let this bull dictate the ride. Every jerk and jolt threatened to send him flying, but somehow, someway, he adapted. The crowd was screaming, the tension was unreal, and then buzzer, 95.5 points. Not just an amazing score, but a ride that would go down in rodeo history. Blueberry Wine may have been unpredictable, but that night, Hancock was the one writing the story. Number 5. Red Rock. Red Rock was a legend wrapped in muscle and horns. Unlike most top-tier bulls, he wasn't just strong, he was smart. He didn't just buck, he played mind games. Every move was calculated to make sure no one, literally no one, ever lasted the full 8 seconds. And for a while, it worked. Rider after rider failed, getting thrown off like they'd just been hit by a wrecking ball. He was unbeaten, untouchable, a walking nightmare for anyone who dared to take him on. But then came Lane Frost. The challenge of champions was set. 6 matchups, man versus beast, and Frost had to prove that Red Rock could be beaten. At first, it looked like business as usual. Frost got tossed, again and again and again, but he refused to give up. He studied Red Rock's movements, analyzed his tricks, and figured out how to adjust. Then, in one of the most dramatic moments in rodeo history, it happened. Frost stayed on. The bull threw everything at him, but Frost held his ground. The buzzer rang, the crowd erupted, and the unbeaten legend was finally beaten. It wasn't just a ride, it was a triumph, a moment that proved sheer determination could take down even the most impossible of challenges. To this day, that victory isn't just remembered, it's revered. Because Red Rock wasn't just another bull, and Lane Frost wasn't just another rider. They were 2 legends, clashing in a battle that would never be forgotten. Number 4. Skull Pacific Bell. This beast wasn't just tough, he was the kind of bull that made riders question their life choices mid-air. Towering, muscled, and mean as hell, Pacific Bell didn't just buck, he detonated. The moment the chute swung open, He'd launch riders into an all-out war, thrashing, twisting, and throwing his entire weight into making sure no one stayed on longer than a second. Most didn't. Jim Sharp, though, different breed. The man had ice in his veins. In 1988, he didn't just ride Pacific Bell, he danced with him, keeping his balance and timing so perfectly that it was almost insulting to the bull. The result? 93 points. The crowd lost it. Riders shook their heads in disbelief. Sharp made something near impossible look like a casual afternoon joyride. Most guys who climbed onto Pacific Bell ended up in the dirt wondering what went wrong. Sharp? He walked away with a ride for the history books. Number 3. Moody Blues. If bulls had personalities, Moody Blues would be the unpredictable, mood-swinging outlaw you never saw coming. He wasn't just a challenge, he was an absolute nightmare. Some bulls have patterns, you learn them, adjust. Not this one. He mixed massive jumps with gut-wrenching direction changes, throwing his full weight into every buck like he had a personal vendetta against anyone who dared climb on. Riders would barely sit down before they were launched into orbit. But Cody Hart, he wasn't there to just hang on. He was there to conquer. In 1999, he climbed aboard knowing full well that this wasn't going to be a routine ride. Moody Blues came out strong, launching into a massive leap before twisting sideways at midair, trying to shake Hart loose. But Hart held firm. Then came the whiplash-inducing spins, the kind that made even the toughest riders see double. Still, Hart adjusted, countering every move, sticking through the storm. By the time the buzzer hit, the arena had just witnessed one of the highest-scoring rides in history, 96 points. It was the kind of ride that made you believe in the impossible, the kind that cemented a legend. Number 2. Panhandle Slim. You ever get on a ride and instantly regret it? That's what Panhandle Slim did to most riders. Fast, unrelenting, and with a mean streak a mile long, this bull didn't just spin. He spun so hard and fast that even gravity seemed to give up. The second the chute opened, it was game over for most. He'd whip around in blindingly fast circles, a living tornado, making sure no one stayed on longer than a blink. Most ended up airborne, flung like rag dolls before they even knew what hit them. But Chris Shivers, different animal. He climbed aboard knowing exactly what Panhandle Slim was capable of, and he braced himself for war. The moment the ride started, the bull came in hot, launching into a spin that would have thrown any normal rider straight into the stands. But Shivers locked in, shifting with every turn, countering every sudden move like he was built for this. By the time the buzzer sounded, he'd pulled off what most thought was impossible. 96 points at the PBR World Finals. Most would have been flung like a frisbee. Shivers turned the chaos into history. Number 1. Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor didn't play fair. He wasn't just powerful, he was pure destruction in bull form. The kind of beast that could end careers with a single move. If you climbed on his back, you weren't just testing your skills, you were gambling with your bones. The way he bucked was violent, unforgiving, and downright nasty. He'd slam his front hooves down, whip his body into impossible angles, and snap his riders into the dirt like they owed him money. He was the ultimate test of endurance, and most failed miserably. Jess Lockwood, though, he wasn't about to be another casualty. In 2017, Lockwood got on Pearl Harbor knowing he was about to step into a storm, and what a storm it was. From the very first buck, Pearl Harbor exploded out of the chute, thrashing so violently that it looked like Lockwood was seconds away from getting launched into the next county. But somehow, he held firm, shifting his weight, adjusting his grip, countering every earth-shaking move with the precision of a veteran. By the time it was over, the arena was left in stunned silence, and then an explosion of cheers. 94 3/4 points. It wasn't just a high score, it was a defining moment. Surviving this ride wasn't just about skill, it was about proving you could take a hit and keep moving. And Lockwood, he walked away a legend. Should bulls this dangerous be retired sooner to protect riders? Like, subscribe, and let's debate.